I wore my flight suit just because it was funny, and I put my Fifi Nilla.
Oh, I love that.
You didn't wear your flight suit.
No, it's so cold here. I have on my overalls.
Hey guys, it is Cockpits and Cocktails. It is your host, Fly Alyssa, and
flyGIRL Kelley.
We have got a really special guest here today. She is one of 1% of the female pilots in ag aviation. We have Emily Daniel here today. Hey, Emily.
Hey guys,
Yay!
how you doing?
Good. We have all our cocktails in hand, I can see. So I'm so excited to get this party started.
Thank you, Emily, for coming on.
Oh, thank you guys so much for having me. I love your podcast, and I'm excited to be a member. This is awesome.
Oh, thank you.
If you guys don't know, Emily is Ag Pilot Chick. I across pretty much all of the social media streams, I think, right? Yeah.
Yep, everything except Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's Emily Daniel, and Emily actually has a matching flyGIRL shirt, but she's not wearing it tonight.
No, it's so cold here. Otherwise, I'd be wearing it. It's perfect. I wear it under my flight suit every time I fly.
I even put on my flight suit for Emily. I was making sure I was safe today, but she didn't wear hers. So
there's a great picture of you. I love
suit.
the picture you did with the flyGIRL shirt, and you are opening your coveralls. That's really cool. I love that picture.
Oh my gosh, I felt like Superwoman for a second. I was like, so now every time, I need to feel good, I wear that shirt, and I'm like, yeah, I feel good today.
Yeah. So
where are you right now, actually?
So right now, I'm in our hangar at work. We work in the winter doing maintenance, so we just got done a day of maintenance, and I figured I'd hang out for a little bit and have a couple cocktails while we chatted.
Yay.
Before we get into your actual career in ag, what got you started in aviation? Was it family? Did you just grow up with it? Like, what's your story?
So I'm actually a third-generation pilot. My grandfather was a flight instructor in World War II.
Wow.
And after the war, he got out and he started a small airport in New Jersey called Cross Keys Airport. And he started a flight school and a crop dusting company that he ran for a number of years. He taught all of his kids how to fly. And one of those kids was my dad. And he kind of continued the tradition with us. And I was the only girl. And of course, I said, of course, I'm going to fly, Dad. So I got started at a really young age. My first lesson, I remember, or my official lesson, I was 13. And my instructor took me up in a 150 Aerobat because I thought I wanted to be an airshow pilot when I grew up. And that was my very first lesson. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I think I want to be an airshow pilot when I grow up, too.
I never realized that pilots don't grow up, so I guess I was wrong.
Right.
We're all in the same space here.
So what is, when people hear ag pilot, what does that mean exactly?
So ag pilots or crop dusters or aerial applicators, we are like those big yellow planes that fly, 5 to 10 feet off the ground, and we spray crops and forests, and we spray for mosquitoes and things like that. That's what we do. We're like the crop dusters, but we go by ag pilots or aerial applicators just to kind of update the term.
And now, do you get hired by companies to do this, or how does all that work?
So you can do it a couple of different ways. I work for a company, and actually my husband and I are in the process of buying the company. It's owned by his dad. So we will get hired by individual farmers, and they will call us and say, hey, we need this field sprayed. They always want it right now, but, in the next few days or something like that. And we will contract through farmers or different chemical companies. And, a chemical company might say, we have 1,000 acres we're behind on. Can you guys come spray this? And we'll work that way.
Okay.
Individual pilots. So we also go to the Midwest every year. A few of us try to get out there because that's where, the real fun flying is.
Yeah.
That's me.
So a lot of pilots will work for someone out there, and you kind of just show up to an airport and there's trucks and you just kind of get handed a map and you get loaded and you just find where the map is, and you go fly it and spray it and come back and do it again all day long.
Wow. So if like farmers, I mean, not every farmer uses a crop dusting plane, right?
Yeah, not every farmer does. Where we are in New Jersey, our main crops are cranberries and blueberries because they're pretty difficult to get to on the ground without damaging the fruit. In the Midwest, you know, the biggest busy season is the corn run and the bean run. Generally, you get to a point in the summer where you can't use a ground sprayer to get over these crops without damaging them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why at that point in the season, they'll call in aerial applicators.
Yeah. I'm assuming it's kind of an expensive endeavor for farmers, correct?
It is, and it isn't. We've done the math with a lot of people. It's definitely more expensive to operate these airplanes than a ground sprayer, but we get the work done so much faster that if you have to pay someone to drive on the ground for X amount of hours versus us, it kind of evens out over time.
Okay, cool.
They were that damage.
Go ahead, Alyssa. Sorry.
It's okay. And they risk that damage at a certain point probably too with the crop, and it's just much easier to spray aerial.
Right. Yeah. It's when, you know, the biggest example I'll use is corn, but you know, there's so many other crops, but corn, when you reach tassel where it's got like the little brown things on top, if you drive through the field, the corn's too tall and you'll mow it all down.
Yeah. So is it single pilot?
It is single pilot. There are a few airplanes that have dual cockpits, and there are actually a couple planes that we have that had a back seat that faces backwards for a loader to fly along with you.
Okay.
So how do you go from flying a Piper Archer to flying that? Because I've sat in one and I've looked at it and I was super intimidated. Like, there has to be a simulator or something, because being a single pilot, I was just like, I'm sure back in the day they just sent people, but like,
it's kind of like that now. But let me first ask you, how tall is it up there? And isn't it so scary trying to get up there?
Girl, I didn't realize how big they were because they fly so fast and so low and so quick, and then they make turns, and then you just see like a yellow blob if you're flying next to them. So you don't really realize how tall they are. Let me preface that I walked under the wing. I'm 5'4". I walked under the wing without ducking. I was like, what? So like getting up there it's a whole new thing. And then there's actually a loading facility at my friend's house here in Illinois. So I like climbed up in there and I was like, wait a minute, like how to, you know, there's just so many questions once you get in the cockpit. And I love your videos on TikTok and things that, you know, kind of show what everything is, and, you know, the light bar in the front, how that kind of works. Because I always wondered, like, how do you even know, like, what you sprayed and what you didn't spray? And, yeah, there's just so much. So it's a beast. Like, it's massive.
Oh, yeah. So the biggest part for me is getting in the airplane. I'm afraid of heights. So that, like, step from the wing to the door is, like, the scariest part of my day.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
But to answer your question, to start, so the way I got started is I flew a lot of tailwheel before I started flying ag. I flew a lot with my dad in the J3. And my father-in-law actually checked me out to start spraying. And he rode around the patch with me. They have a Waco RNF. And he said, okay, let's go do some landings. We did 3 landings. And he said, okay, I'm going to go put you in the Pawnee. And so I jumped out of that. And I, you know, got briefed on the systems and how to fly the Pawnee and speeds and things like that. I read some text, and then I went and flew it. And it's been like that so far for every airplane that I've flown. It's just, you know, you read the book and you jump in and you go and you make it happen. So
you don't always fly the same plane?
No, we try to, and we're getting to that point this year. Everyone should have mostly their own plane. But if you have something that breaks and you need to step to a different plane, It'll be slightly different. So we run mostly Pawnees and Weatherlies, and now we have air tractors. So going from a different model of the same plane isn't too bad, but jumping up in size is a little bit different. So this year I'll be flying one of our air tractors, and it's a turbine. So I am going to a simulator in at the end of February, and then I'll be flying a 2-seat Thrush with an instructor, and he will be getting me checked out with the systems before they just kind of send me off by myself.
Yeah. I thought they were all called air tractors. See, I didn't know. I thought if it was a crop duster, it was just called an air tractor.
They are, I mean, yeah, air tractor's great. Yeah.
It's like a brand, yeah.
Yeah, there's the two big names are air tractor and Thrush. Air tractors are the yellow ones, which are my favorite. I wish they were pink, but they're yellow. And then Thrushes are generally red and white. So if you see a red and white one, it's generally a Thrush.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're very large and bulky, aren't they?
They are huge.
Yeah.
I live in like the Corn Run Central, and we actually have, I mean, several operations just like in a very small radius of us, and they just kind of deploy out. But we also have helicopter team. Do you guys have like anybody doing that out there, or is it just you guys? Like how?
So there are 3 operations in New Jersey, and they are all aircraft. But right over in Pennsylvania, and a lot of the mosquito work that's done in New Jersey is done by helicopter. I'm not sure why. I think they're a little scarier myself, but I don't know. I guess I've just never flown a helicopter.
Yeah. So how many airplanes do you have in the company that you work for? Or,
Flying or total?
Both.
So flying this year, we will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total.
Okay.
And then spares or something that's like in progress to be fixed, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, an additional 4, so 9.
Wow. And how many pilots are there?
This year we should have 3 full-time pilots with one of our ground loaders. He'll be training in the airplane this year, so it'll be his first season spraying a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we have a couple part-time pilots in case we get backed up or someone gets hurt.
Okay. So is it like a 9 to 5 job?
No.
I'm like waiting for that.
I wish it was so much. I'm such a homebody, but it's we generally show up between 4:30 to 5 a.m. every morning, and we don't leave until maybe 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night.
Oh my goodness. That's not year round. That's seasonal, right?
It's seasonal, yeah. For us, our season picks up the last couple weeks of May and ends in mid-September.
Wow. Okay. So you're pretty busy during that time.
We're pretty busy. You know, you have different cycles of everything. So you'll have like maybe 5 or 6 days where it's really busy, and then a couple days where it rains and you can kind of catch up on sleep. But those days you're there, you're there.
Yeah.
So like with the turbine stuff, I know my friend's operation at the loading facility, they don't shut it down. So like how long are you in the plane? I've thought this through a little bit. How do you, eating, going to the bathroom, you got your, 8-hour day or whatever. I mean, do you shut down with the Pawnee, or like how does your day go?
So it depends. I shut down if I really need to, like if I need to get out of the airplane for something, I'll shut down, or if I need a break. Generally, you don't shut down more than maybe twice a day, tops. Maybe 3 if you I don't know, we're really hungry in the afternoon. But you live in the airplane, and you eat in the airplane, and in my case, I go to the bathroom in the airplane, and
you do?
Another story.
Oh my God.
Well, you can't get out, and you have to make sure you drink enough liquids, and they got to go somewhere. So I've learned the art.
Regulations like the airlines have when you can't fly more than a certain amount of hours, or what?
So ag aviation currently doesn't have any fatigue or duty days. Um, and that's actually great because if we did, we wouldn't be able to get the work done that we do. But it's really important that we self-regulate. So at our company, I'm huge on safety. So if you are tired or if it's lunchtime, get out of the plane, take 30 minutes, eat, take a nap if you need to. I will take as many breaks as I need to, and I am not sorry about it to anybody. Just because if we as a group don't self-regulate ourselves, then the FAA could put regulations on there that would actually really be damaging for our operations.
Right. Yeah. Well, when you hear, like, I hear that, like, agricultural flying is like super dangerous. What would you say makes it dangerous?
The biggest thing is fatigue and obstacles. So you're tired, you've been up all day, and your body goes through different cycles of fatigue during the day. And it's really important to recognize when you're going to be tired and know how to mitigate that.
Mm.
But the other thing is obstacles. So, we deal with power lines, both high tension lines and small power lines, trees, like meteorological towers, other towers, just anything that's out there. There's so many things that are windmills, everything that's attached to the ground.
We have a ton of farms here.
Yeah, I hate the wind farms personally.
How does that affect your aircraft? Like the wind farms, because those are moving. Like how does that affect?
They are. So I haven't been around any that are like turned on super fast, but I have heard that you can kind of get some turbulence or some things like that around them. The ones I've flown around have actually been under construction, and I thought those were pretty scary because they can have ropes that are attached to those turbines when they're putting them up. And if you don't coordinate with that company, an airplane could go through that rope, and there's usually people on the ground attached to those. So that's not a good situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're actually lower than the windmills spin. So, they're kind of like big goalposts out there. So you're going to see it.
So how high off the ground are you typically when you're spraying?
So most sprays, they like you to be about half of the width of your wingspan. So we're generally, between 5 to 15, maybe 20 if you're like higher feet off the ground. Yeah. So you're pretty low.
I had no idea that close. And I guess you're that way just to keep the spray from getting blown everywhere.
Right. So if you're so if you're too low, it won't spread out enough. And if you're too high, it'll spread out too much and you could drift onto things, other crops or people that you don't want to. So the ideal height is about half that width of the wingspan.
Yeah.
So how do you when you're spraying, doing that, and I've always heard about do they put these cutters on the front? This seems really dumb, but did they put?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I've heard that they put these things that will cut wires if you were to fly through them, so that if you were, that it would actually cut through it and you wouldn't be hanging from the wire.
Yes, so those are called wire cutters, or another brand that makes them is called storm cutters, and they could be in a couple different places. Some have them. It's if you ever see my videos and there's a bar in the middle of my windshield, that's actually a wire cutter on my windshield. And then most of the newer airplanes, and they make, aftermarket installations, you could put them on the gear legs. So if you maybe pulled up and you missed, your gear leg would hit it and it would cut it. And they do work. They work really well.
Wow. Yep. So before you go flying, do you do a whole obstacle kind of thing to make sure you know where everything's at? What is it like when you're getting ready to go to a whole new place and spray? What do you do?
So if I'm at my company, and it's different when I go fly for someone else, because like I said, they'll just hand you a map and you don't have time. But at my company, if it's a new field, we do a lot of spray in the mountains, and I call them mountains, but it's like the Pocono area. And I will put them on Google Earth, and I use our mapping software as well. And I can kind of do a street view and I can see what's around there. And then I use, the FAA charts and just, I also, a top down view, you can kind of see some of those bigger power lines. And I'll just kind of sit down, and for our pilots, I do most of the mapping, and I will mark down every obstacle I see on a map. That way, at least they have an idea that something might be there.
Yeah.
When you get to the field, you can't rely on that map because it could be totally different. The imagery could be old, or it could have been wrong. So when you get to the field, you just circle the field and you circle for obstacles. And you do that at about 500 feet. And then you kind of get a little bit lower to make sure that there's nothing super low or there's any workers in the field or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. The
biggest thing is, if you're anywhere near homes or farm buildings, there are always power lines and you cannot see them. You kind of, you can trace the poles, but sometimes the poles go into a tree line and you won't see it. So it's just really important that you align. The sun can be a factor in this as well. So if, the sun is in your eyes, you don't want to spray a field that way because you won't see those obstacles. Yeah. So you always want to spray the sun at your back or kind of parallel that way.
Yeah. Wow. So have you ever had anything like super close calls?
So I think my first year, I got a little confident. I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, I'm really good at this.
Yeah.
And, like the day I started to feel that way, I pulled out of a field and I was just a little bit too late. And, it's a field I had done that year several times. And I was like, I know where the obstacles are. And I pulled out, and it was a steep pull. I was very light, and I kind of felt like a thump. And I was like, oh no, what was that? So I flew by and I said, hi guys, can you check my landing gear? I heard a thump. I don't know what it was. They said, your landing gear looks okay, no big deal. And so what I figured out was that I just pulled out too steep, and I kind of hit my own wingtip vortices there.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of hit my own turbulence. But that was enough to kind of say, okay, I need to be a little bit safer about this.
Yeah.
And then last season, it was actually my very last flight of last season, which is kind of a bummer, but we were at a satellite airport in northern New Jersey, and we were actually doing some seed. So we seed cover crop for the winter as well. And so nothing crazy in the airplane. And I took off, and I got to about, I don't know, maybe 150 feet. And it takes you a little while to get that high because the airplane's so heavy that you're not climbing out like a normal plane. And all of a sudden, my engine quit.
Oh.
And I'm telling you this in slow motion because it really happened in a span of about like 3 seconds. But my engine quit, and I went, oh no. And, that's something that we prepare for. And, the entire time I fly, I'm thinking, where am I going to land? But that's kind of the worst spot for that to happen is like right after takeoff. And then a couple seconds later, it kind of like surges back to life, and I'm flying a radio, and all of a sudden it like backfires, and a like flame shoots out the exhaust. And I was like, oh no. And then before I had time to process that, it did it again, and it quit, and it came back, and it backfired. And I was like, oh no. So it did that about probably after the second time. I went, something's wrong. And I dumped the seed that I had. That's the biggest thing in an emergency is making sure that, no matter what happens, you need to make the airplane maneuverable again. So I emptied out what I could with seed and fertilizer. It's different than like a spray, so it doesn't come out super fast, but I at least start the process of it to come out. And I turned back to the airport. And I remember thinking, like, this isn't a great idea, but my options in front of me were a set of high tension power lines and a development, which either would have been fine. There was plenty of field area to land. It's just that my engine was still running. And I knew that, I something was off, but it was still running.
Yeah.
So someone told me a long time ago, if you're flying a radial and it's still running, don't touch it. Don't touch the power. So I didn't. I just turned back to the airport, and it kind of did that like quit and backfire thing. And once I had the runway made, I just slowly pulled my power back, and it stopped immediately as soon as I touched the power. And I landed, and it wasn't really like a close call, but for me, like the constant, engine quitting noise with like the whole exhaust flame was a little bit scary. So yeah,
unnerving. Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
So that was probably the scariest thing I've had as far as like super scary. But we've had close calls with weather or like clouds moving in or fog moving in. But generally, after that one time I thought I might have hit something, I have been super careful. Yeah. And I hope to stay that way and stay super careful.
Yeah. And so you don't fly like IFR or anything, do you?
So not for ag aviation, we don't. Yeah. That would be pretty scary.
That would be, yeah.
A lot of the stuff we do, though, like we are waiting on fog in the morning, and we do push weather conditions. We need 1 mile and clear of clouds. So, if there is fog over an area, it's important to know the area that you're in. But we will go push weather, and a lot of times you're trying to hustle back to the airport because something's rolling in or there's a storm coming or something like that.
Yeah. So one of the cool things I like about some of your stories and stuff like that you put on Instagram are it appears that there's this very close-knit kind of family camaraderie atmosphere. Is that true?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We call ourselves a family, and, some people that we've started the season with are complete strangers. And then, a couple weeks in, you're best pals, and you know everything about each other by the end of the year. And I think that's really cool. It's, we are a family business. So like I work with my husband every day, which has its ups and downs, but all of us together are really a family. And I think that's really cool. Even when we meet up with other pilots, like last year when we were out in the Midwest, you meet up with a different group of pilots every night, and it's like you're all best friends instantly. And it's just a really cool.
That's the great thing about anything aviation, I feel like. So
oh my gosh,
yeah, it's a smaller group. I mean, even just aviation is a small group, but then when you get into like a niche like agricultural flying, that's even smaller, tight knit group. So you all kind of know what you're going through like instantly.
Absolutely. Yeah, so one of my questions for kind of leading from that would be like, what are the workup to get to be flying? I know there's a lot of ground crew and loaders and like these things. Say I'm a pilot, I have all the qualifications to, be able to fly agricultural stuff, but have no experience. Like, where would I start?
So the first thing I would say is find an operator if you want to do it. Is people that are already qualified commercial, maybe have some tail wheel, that kind of thing. Even if you don't have the tail wheel, find an operator and tell them your goals. Say, hi, I'm Alyssa and I want to be a pilot for you or for a company. And most operators will start you on the ground, and we do as well. I started on the ground as well, and it's a really good way for us to sense how someone's work ethic is, their decision making, and how they're going to perform in the airplane. It also, teaches you about the spray and the mixing, and you can learn a lot about how to spray and not spray a field by watching other people. So it's kind of a combination of factors, and we like to see that people really want this and they really want to work hard, and those are the people that usually stick it out, and we give them their first ag pilot seat.
Yeah. Wow.
So that process could take anywhere from 1 season of loading to 2. Any more than that, I would, start the conversation again And in my case, I was really pushy, and I was like, hey, can I spray that? And they were like, no, Emily, you can't. And I was like, why not? I don't know how to do it. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I got to learn. So why don't I go learn on this field? And it was just me kind of being relentless and, you know, showing up to work at 4:30 every day, being the first person there and the last one to leave. That, you know, even in a family business, they were like, okay, she really wants to do this. So that's what I would recommend for someone getting into it. There are ag schools out there. And I've made a few videos about these. I'm not for or against. I think that they have their purposes. And I think that some people would learn really well there and some people would not benefit from them. But the thing that we like to reiterate to people is, you know, no matter what you do, you need to load on the ground for however long it is, maybe 2 seasons, maybe 1. So what I like to tell people is start loading maybe before you get your licenses. And then in the off season, you can really work on those ratings, and that will really speed up your process.
I think everybody thinks there's this like equation to getting to where they want to be in aviation. And I think, you know, we all have different stories, backgrounds, how we all get to one place, and they all work. But I think it's definitely like, I would work better in like loading and seeing it happen and watching the operation and knowing exactly what it takes to do that job, where, you know, you put me in a school and tell me I need to meet XYZ, I probably won't succeed in that. So I think, you know, it's just one of those, you have to be open to see what works for you and willing to put in the work. So
and that's huge. Willing to put in the work. That's huge.
This summer, and I'm like, I don't know how she does it. Like, she's awake at 4 and she's up late, and you're like responding on Instagram and you're like doing all these things, and it was just like, like I'm a busy person and my mind is everywhere, but like craziness. And
most of when I respond is when I'm getting loaded or fueled or something. I have a couple minutes to kind of check my phone and check my messages. But if you notice, in the fall, I kind of just fall off the grid because I'm just so tired, like trying to catch up on sleep.
Compressed. Do you guys do anything at the end of season, like to celebrate like the end of season, or like how do you guys, like, I'm sure it's bittersweet because you're like glad it's done, but also like excited, and also people are leaving because most people don't realize that, you know, agricultural pilots and load, like, they go where the work is, and so it's not usually just one set place.
Right. We're a little bit different here, where most of us are full time throughout the year, but we don't see each other as much. And for me, like the last day of every spray season, I'm in tears because I'm like, what am I gonna do in the winter? Like, I don't have what am I gonna do? And I'm so sad. But one thing we do in our company, which is actually really fun, and it's not really a company thing, we all just kind of get together afterwards and do it. It's called Trackhoe Surfing. So basically we have an excavator, like a big excavator, like it digs holes, and we put a rope on it, and we get surfboards, and you kind of have to swing on the rope to the surfboard, and then someone swings you around on the excavator, and you kind of surf.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
I feel like this is dangerous.
Yeah.
I wouldn't try it at home. I really wouldn't.
Emily, ever.
Wow.
But yeah, we do that, and we tried. Another thing that we do too, and we try to do this. You know, we do it at the end of the season, and we do it after cranberry harvest. Is we all love sushi, and we all go for like a big all-you-can-eat sushi kind of thing. So
that sounds good. I'd get into that. Yeah.
We're in. Natalie and I are going to show up for the end of season, and we will be like the hostess with the mostess or something. Like,
I love it. Come on out. We eat so much, so it'll be great.
So we have the helicopter operation. I guess you guys don't have a lot, but I see like people like, I didn't realize with helicopters, they're set up like just in the country on a farm out there, but they have like all these campers and things. And it's like, did you experience that when you guys went to the Midwest, or like, because I know you guys came out here, did you stay in a hotel? How did that work? Like when you were traveling?
So actually in New Jersey, we were in between homes the first year I was spraying. So we actually lived in a camper trailer on the runway that we spray out of. And
well, that's
out in the Midwest, everyone does that as well too.
Yeah.
You're talking my language. Are you guys hiring for season?
Yeah, come on out. It would be great.
All load, all day.
It would be so nice to have another girl around here. It really would.
That was my next question. I mean, how many ag pilots are actually women?
So I guess it depends on country. So I've been like trying to find everyone that I can. In the United States, I've found, I think it's about 6 that are currently flying.
Wow.
And there are a couple more that kind of they went to an ag school and they're kind of looking for their first seat this year. Yeah. So there's a couple more. So hopefully we'll be in double digits soon.
Yeah.
I know there's like 3 or 4 in Canada, and then I think another 3 or 4 in South America as well.
Wow. So I feel like it'd be really competitive to get into that. Like you really do need to know somebody. Is that kind of correct, or?
It is and it isn't. It helps a lot if you know somebody. But we have hired people that just like sent us an email.
Wow.
And we were like, hey, like, come on out. And when we met them, we were like, this is great. One of our pilots, Dan, he went to ATP school and he was like, I'm looking for a job. I think I want to be an ag pilot. And he loaded for us for 2 years and he flies for us now. And he's great. And no one in his family knows anything about aviation, and none of them know anything about ag. So it really is just, you kind of just got to knock down some doors.
Yeah. Yeah. And show that you're really, really, really interested and really pursue it.
Yeah.
Do you have some other flying that you would like to do?
Some other kind of flying.
Yeah.
So 2 things on my bucket list. I'm currently a CFII, and I do some instructing in the winter. And I help get our pilots trained around here. I would really, really like to do my seaplane rating.
Yeah.
My husband and I never took a honeymoon, and we're kind of like, let's just save up and get our seaplane ratings. Like that would be so much fun to go do that. And then I'd also, I started thinking about this last year. I'd really like to get my multi-engine instructor.
Okay.
I think that would be really fun and beneficial, and kind of just, it would allow me to give back more than I can.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you like to instruct?
I do. I love instructing. I reached a point where I did it full time and I was like, I never want to instruct again. And then I found myself missing it. So right now I just have a few students, and I kind of pick and choose my students based on like who fits well together, and, people that don't mind not really flying a ton in the summer, which is hard to find.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
It's definitely like when it's a means to an end, and you have to be flying as an instructor to get your 1,500 hours for airline or something. People get really burnt out. And that's kind of what's put me off about like going through to get my instructor. I'm working on my commercial and things, but it's one of those, like, I don't want to instruct to just get hours. Like, I want to give back, and I want to really like help those that need the extra help. But then I also think about like, I don't want to die. So I don't want to instruct maybe like super beginner primary. I'm like, maybe not. But I love like talking through, like I took somebody flying the other day in the pattern, and I love talking through like what I'm doing. And so I think like I would like instructing, but I don't want it to be a job per se. I want it to be something I enjoy doing. So.
Right. No, that makes sense. I feel the same way. And I never did it for hours or anything, but so many private pilots can really kind of start to weigh down on you. So I'm just branching out into like tail wheel instruction and the commercial and instrument stuff. And I really enjoy that kind of instructing.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to have like a variety of different kind of students. You know, like you've got a private pilot student, you've got a tailwheel student, you've got kind of got a mix.
That's a lot of work too, if you think about it. Like you're doing lessons for 20 different types of flying, or goals. So that's like if you take on five students and they're all doing private, I think like, oh, this is great. But like if you take on 5 students and it's private tailwheel aerobatics, like it's, I think you'd just be like always planning the next.
True.
Like teaching 5 subjects instead of teaching 1. So
yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah, and there's certain subjects that I prefer, and maybe you can tell me if this is accurate for you as well. And others that I'm kind of like, I really don't want to touch on that one. I don't like that one.
Yeah.
You just got your CFI, right, Natalie?
Yeah.
That is awesome. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. There's definitely some subjects I feel more confident teaching and more knowledge about, and there's others that I'm kind of like, I don't know about that one.
Like for me, the initial class on systems, like explaining how the instrument works with like the little, the little wafer thing and the
the interoid, whatever it is.
I default that, and my husband's not an instructor, but I will bring him over and I'm like, can you teach my student about these instruments?
Yeah.
And he does such a good job.
Yes.
I think
but I'm like,
men know the mechanics of things, or like what I've came to find out, like Natalie was getting her condition inspection the other day, and I think I asked a question or she asked a question about what they were doing, and he gave us like the long answer, and I was like, no, I need the short answer and just like to the point what you're doing. Like I need to know that this goes to this number and this is the, I just need to know like an overall, like
there's like a whole other language and all
it is. I'm like, oh gosh, like I know this stuff. I think about it.
It is interesting though, and I do want to learn more about those areas that I'm weak in. I don't like not feeling confident in certain areas.
I have tried so many times to teach about these instruments, and that's my big thing. I watch YouTube videos and I can explain it for like a day, and then every time I have to go teach someone, I have to go relearn it again. It just doesn't stick in my brain, and I don't know what it is.
I know, it's so frustrating. Kind of like, please don't ask me any more. And those seem to be the ones that, I don't know, it's like they know that you're weak in that area, so they ask you a lot more questions about it, and I'm just like, can you just go to YouTube?
My go-to trick, I'm like, you know what? I got my instructor rating. Why don't you go look it up tonight and teach me about it tomorrow?
Oh, I love that.
And it gives me a night to go like, okay, let me go read about this so I can.
You guys are telling tricks online right now. Like you guys are telling all of your secrets.
Not all of them, just a couple.
Just a few.
Yeah, good. So are you, right now, the crops that you're spraying are what?
So I spray cranberries and blueberries, corn, soybeans, and a handful of like pumpkins or tomatoes or things like that.
Okay. These are big farms.
Some of them are and some of them aren't. In New Jersey, our average field size is maybe 10 to 15 acres.
Oh,
so that's pretty
not that big. I was thinking like way bigger.
That's pretty right.
I live in Illinois. I live in like land of crops, and I'm like, I think
when I went out to the Midwest, oh my gosh, they were like, we're gonna give you a small field, and it was like 200 acres.
Yeah.
Like, this is amazing. I'll take these all day. Don't worry. But no, like we do a lot of really small fields. New Jersey is very densely populated, so a lot of our farms, cranberries and blueberries are high yield crops. So you don't need a ton of acreage, but they make a ton of fruit.
Yeah.
So, I've done, like a half an acre to an acre blueberry field before.
Oh, wow.
And then, also go out and do like a 200 acre cornfield. So it really just depends.
Interesting. Huh. So that made me think of another question. You were just saying, okay, Alyssa was talking about this bar thing, and we talked a little bit about how do you know where you've already sprayed? Maybe to someone that hasn't actually seen some of your stuff, how do you know that you haven't already sprayed that area?
Okay, so there's two main components, and one is on the front of the airplane. If you see in the videos, there's like a little box on the nose that's kind of like blinking.
Yeah.
That's our light bar. And then inside, that's connected to a little GPS. And it's not like a Garmin GPS. It's like a crop, like field GPS. And it
like
tells
tractors use it, like big
exactly.
Tractors. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Exactly. It's exactly what they use.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you can do it a couple ways. You can set a polygon in that GPS before you go spray, if you have time. Or if you just get handed a map, you can just hit like new A-B line, which is like your start to finish line.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of different spray patterns you can pick from. You can go like back and forth. That's the easiest one, but there's like 5 or 6 different ones you can pick. And so you set that initial line generally on the longest, straightest part of the field.
Yeah.
Because it's heavy, you want to get that spray out as fast as you can. So you set that line, and as soon as you turn your spray off, that GPS moves your line over.
Okay.
So it says, but it knows how wide your swath is based on, you know, we do testing and we know like, okay, for this, I'm going to spread my spray 60 feet wide or 70 feet wide.
Yeah.
So it'll move your line over, depending on if you want offset or things, it'll move it over for you. Then you turn around and you're using the light bar on the front of the airplane. And it's basically like an ILS or like a localizer where you're kind of following that needle into the center. Yeah. It's just really sensitive. It goes down to like a few inches.
Wow.
So it's just really, really sensitive.
Yeah.
That's really
and then you come back around, you get set up, you turn your spray on, and in the field, if you're not quite, if you kind of turned a little bit, you can kind of use your rudder to kind of go back and forth to stay straight on your line. And then you pull out of the field and you do it all over again.
That sounds so cool.
So
it's
when
really
you're
fun.
thinking about like, okay, you're doing all your normal things flying, and then you're turning spray on and off, keeping in line, doing all of that. So is there like a button, a lever that you turn on and off spray?
Yes. So most people call this the spray handle, and most pilots call it the money handle, because you're only making money as a pilot when that handle is on and you're spraying.
Yeah.
We have ours set up with switches, which is a little bit different. Every operator and every mechanic will set these up differently, but the way ours are currently set up is the spray handle's always open, and then I just have a little switch next to my throttle, and when I'm ready to turn the spray on, I hit the switch and it turns on. It's just kind of like an instant on-off. It's got its advantages and its drawbacks, but that's the way that we currently set it up. So it's a switch.
Okay.
So do you have to change your airspeed? Because I'm thinking about like shutting that off, shutting it on. You are then pulling up. You obviously gain airspeed, or you stay in that airspeed. So are you adjusting your airspeed a lot, or are you pretty much keeping it set, coming back around and doing the next?
So in your turnarounds, you are changing airspeed quite a bit, and each pass you do, the center of gravity changes because you now have less weight and chemical.
Yeah.
So it will change every pass. So in the beginning, you might start to get like a little bit of a stall at, say, 80 miles an hour, and then at the end you can bank it up to like 65 or something like that.
Yeah.
You want to keep your airspeed constant across the field. So, in the turnarounds, it doesn't matter as long as you don't stall. That is super important. Keep it coordinated, keep the speed up. But across the field, you really want to have a constant airspeed, because that's going to affect the rate that your chemical comes out. Right.
Right. Yeah.
So many numbers. There's so many things.
I know.
There's a lot math, and nobody told me there's going to be this much math.
I think the first time, like, I thought it was really intriguing. Like, I'm intrigued with how combines work. Because I'm like, wait, you mean that it like picks that up and like filters it through and then it tells you like your yield and it tells you all of those things. So same thing with flying, but like a combine like can pretty much like turn and do its own thing and line up and everything. But an airplane, like you're constantly changing your airspeeds and you have to be in control of that and spray and keep all of these things. Like that's a lot.
It's a lot. And they make it a little bit easier, you know. When my first plane that I started in didn't have what's called flow control. So your airspeed was super, super important. But now, you know, attached to our spray system, most people have flow control, which, you know, when you turn your spray on, you've set that in your GPS that, you know, I want 3 gallons per acre or 2 gallons per acre.
Okay.
And even if you change speed, it's going to compensate for that and put out the correct amount, which is super great.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you going pretty slow when you're actually spraying?
It depends on the airplane. So our slowest airplane goes about 90 miles an hour across the field, which is pretty slow. And then, you know, our air tractors go maybe 140 miles an hour across.
Yeah.
Which,
so you're only
that
really
difference is pretty big.
You said something kind of interesting. You only get paid for when you're spraying.
Right. So
per acre, right?
We get paid per acre. That's, you know, we start a lot of our first year pilots out on salary just so that they're not pushed to do too many acres and they're not afraid to say no to certain things. Yeah. But once you have that experience level, you get paid per acre sprayed. So just because, you know, you got, you know, 10 hours of flight time today, you maybe only sprayed, I don't know, you know, 1,000 acres or 500 acres or whatever it is. So it's generally per acre and it's generally a percentage of the price. So I've seen anywhere between the pilot gets maybe 10% of the price or 20% of the price. And it's, some people do somewhere in that spread. Some people do the high end or the low end. And so like if it was, you know, if it cost $9 an acre, you know, that was the price, you would get paid like, you know, 20% of that, which is like $1.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
What do pilots do in the off season? If, you know, I guess you're a CFI, but what would you say, like on average, agricultural pilots do on their off season?
I've seen a lot of people that will, you know, they can go find off-season work. Some people go to Australia or other countries and do some work over there. There's a lot of CFIs. There's some corporate people. There are a lot of truck drivers. And just, you know, you'll find a big spectrum across the board. Yeah. But it depends, too, because, like, our off-season, you know, is a little bit longer because we're in the Northeast. But you know, some of the southern states, like they're flying rice down in Mississippi and Louisiana right now. Yeah. So their off season isn't super long. It might only be a couple months. So they might just take those 2 months off and kind of relax and recharge.
Yeah. Huh. So can you like get rich being an agricultural pilot?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not there yet.
I haven't figured it quite out.
I would like to think. I've heard that you can. I think I'm just not at that point. I'm still a little bit slow and take my time. It's definitely like comparable, you know, like your first year you may not make a ton, but it's not unheard of for ag pilots to make like over $150,000 or over $200,000 a year if they're really busy.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not there yet.
So we know who's going to buy dinner next time I'm in New Jersey.
It's her. I love it. Awesome.
I was very curious. I don't know anything about, you know, being a pilot in agriculture and is this a well-paying job? Is it something like how many hours are there like minimum requirements that people are looking for when you're you get hired? They want you to have a certain amount of...
Yeah, insurance companies, they generally like to see around 200 hours of tail wheel, but that's not required. You know, it's just, you might have a higher insurance premium for that person if they have less.
Yeah.
But there's no like 1,500 hour or anything like that. You know, I mentioned our pilot, Dan, he came to us with 250 hours and we got him a little bit more over the next few years. But other than that, he was a brand new pilot and he started flying ag, which was pretty cool.
Interesting.
You're making me think about this.
Look, yellow would look so good on you, Alyssa.
I would pay to get that thing painted pink for us.
So I thought about it. I really did. And I decided against the pink plane because they're going to know it's me. Right now, like, I can wear whatever I want. I have a pink helmet that I'll have this year. I'm still working on the pink flight suit. But they can't tell who it is inside. But like, if you have this big pink airplane, they know.
Yeah.
That's made me think because I've heard a couple of like instances where like, you know, females walk out of the plane and they're like, wait, what? She was flying like that. And I actually, Lacey Waldron, I don't know if you guys are friends with her. She was in Florida and a guy wouldn't let her on the ramp in Key West because he's like, oh, ma'am, you have to be with a pilot. And
oh my gosh.
Like, oh, yeah? She's like, I am the pilot. Like, but she was in a cutesy dress and, you know, but it's just like, I would pee my pants if like you showed up in an air tractor. I'd be like, shut the front door. Female just got out of the air tractor. Like, I would bow to you because, I mean, I just think it's so awesome that it's just such a niche thing. And to have, you know, I think one of your posts had said, like, you know, even to be in the United States, to be 1% of the agricultural pilots, you would have to have like 35 women and, you know, 6. So
wow.
Not even 1%, you're like 0.04% or something, you know, like 0.2%.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to know you, to know like how passionate you are on aviation, like it's just awesome. Like I
think it is too. I've been following you for a while and I think it's really cool what you're doing. And you're showing other women other things that they can think about doing and how women can be successful in all these other ways, you know, and I think that's great.
Yeah, I just, you know, my goal is just to kind of get the word out there, you know, to the public about ag aviation, because most people just think we're like dirty, nasty people. And I'm like, hey, no, we're not. Like, we're real people. And then, you know, just encouraging women to get into aviation in general. It's, you know, if I can inspire one person to just, you know, get their pilot's license, mission accomplished. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree.
Well, thank you so much, Emily. I think you're adorable, and I love everything that you're doing, and I think it's just really badass.
Thank you guys for having me. No, I love following your pages, and it's so cool to connect with other fellow female pilots.
Time out. I had one question. I just realized because halfway through this video, I stripped off the flight suit because I was hot in the house.
Sure.
But what do you wear under the flight suit in the summer? It's super hot. Like, what do you wear?
I have a t-shirt and that's about it.
I totally just rock a sports bra and, you know, it's so hot, you know, but safety comes first. So I think that you're, you know, advocating for that.
I do wear a t-shirt just because when I am walking around, I'll take the top off and I will tie it around the waist. So like, I don't want to, you know, I mean, I'm already distracting enough, I think, but I don't want to be, you know, walking around the airport with no shirt.
I mean, whatever.
Wow. Yeah. Well, keep doing what you're doing, and I love seeing what you're doing on Instagram. It's Ag Pilot Chick, right?
Yes, guys.
Yep.
And I'm not big on TikTok, but apparently you are. So it's the same on TikTok?
You need to join the cool kids.
I'm behind the learning curve, but I'm trying on TikTok.
I'm learning. We're learning all together.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Well, Alyssa tried to show me some things this past week, and it's a lot. It seems a lot more complicated than Instagram.
It is. It's not easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'd love to get together with you sometime personally. Do you ever go to like air shows and things like that, or no? You're just so busy with everything else.
I do. Mostly we get to Sun and Fun is our big one, but Oshkosh we never get a chance because we're working.
Yeah. Yeah. Will you be going to Sun and Fun this year?
As long as they have it, I'm hoping to get out there.
So far, so good. I'll be there.
Yeah, me too. We need to get together.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much, Emily.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I really had a pleasure talking with you.
It was fun and very informative, I felt like. I learned a lot anyway.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Yeah. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Cockpits and Cocktails with myself, flyGIRL Kelley, and
Alyssa.
And
Emily, Ag Pilot Chick.
Please make sure you are subscribed to our podcast and follow us on Instagram so you don't miss anything, any of our guests, and you know what's going to be coming up or our past episodes. And, we appreciate everyone in aviation. Our goal is to get more people interested in aviation, not just females, but we do like to tell female stories, and we think that it is a great community to be involved in.
Cheers.
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 Thank you.